The mood in British industry surprisingly improved somewhat in February. The Purchasing Managers Index collected by IHS Markit rose by zero point 0.7 points to 58 points compared to the previous month, as market researchers announced on Tuesday in London, according to a second estimate. Analysts had expected a confirmation of the initial estimate of 57.3 points. The data showed some positive developments, the statement said. 64% of the companies were confident about further development. Supply chain disruptions and material shortages have abated. However, the Ukraine crisis could lead to higher commodity prices, renewed supply chain disruptions, and other economic problems. Russian President Vladimir Putin must continue to feel the consequences of invading Ukraine, Johnson said on Tuesday. Putin must fail. Britain and its allies agree on that. During his visit, Johnson met Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki and in Estonia, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, among others. Foreign Minister Liz Truss had previously announced further sanctions against Moscow. London would ban exports to Russia in a number of what they call critical sectors and take action against oligarchs and other Russian banks in Great Britain. Because of the Ukraine war, Volkswagen and the British luxury car manufacturer Jaguar Land Rover have stopped selling their cars in Russia for the time being. Volkswagen Group Rus has temporarily suspended the delivery of vehicles to dealers of its brands until further notice, said a spokesman in Wolfsburg on Tuesday. However, the extraditions should be resumed as soon as the effects of the sanctions imposed by the European Union and the United States have been clarified. Jaguar Land Rover referred to the current business challenges. British Business Minister Kwasi Kwarteng welcomed the decision. JLR is part of the Indian car group Tata. A good week after her corona infection became known, Queen Elizabeth II made appointments online again. The 95-year-old received ambassadors from Andorra and Chad via video link from Windsor Castle in 2 online audiences on Tuesday, as Buckingham Palace subsequently announced. The British Queen had previously cancelled some planned virtual appointments. According to the palace, she had experienced mild cold-like symptoms but continued to perform light tasks. It is considered certain that the Queen has been vaccinated against corona 3 times. Due to her advanced age, the infection is still not considered harmless. Observers therefore rated the appointments on Tuesday as a cautious sign of recovery. Almost a month ago, the Queen celebrated the 70th anniversary of her accession to the throne in a small meeting. She is the longest reigning monarch of the United Kingdom. We have just become the first nation to pass legislation that would include a total ban on all ships with any Russian connection from calling at British ports, Britain's Transport Secretary Grant Shapps tweeted on Tuesday. Called on other countries to follow these examples. In cooperation with the EU and the US, London had previously launched far-reaching sanctions aimed primarily at the Russian financial sector. Russian planes are also no longer allowed to land in the EU and Great Britain, and from right now, also in the USA. Britain has imposed sanctions on a number of people and organizations in the country because of Belarus' role in the Ukraine war. The chief of the Belarusian General Staff and 3 other high-ranking representatives of the military leadership and 2 military companies have been sanctioned, the British Foreign Office announced on Tuesday evening. The Lukashenko regime actively supports and encourages Russia's illegal invasion and will feel the economic consequences of its support for Putin, British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss said in a statement. Those affected can no longer travel to Great Britain with immediate effect, and any assets in the country will be frozen. As a reaction to the Russian war of aggression in the Ukraine, there are no longer current prices for VTB, Sberbank and Co. on Western European stock exchanges. Money can still be invested in Gazprom and Rosneft, though. The analysis support those who want to invest in the Russian gas producer Gazprom on the London Stock Exchange. All 14 observers who examine its business development recommend the share as a buy. With an average earnings potential of 745%, Gazprom is one of the most attractive stocks and can still be traded. But as far as financial stocks are concerned, there is currently no development to be observed at all, because as part of the British and EU sanctions, they can no longer be traded on Western European stock exchanges, such as London or Frankfurt. While 7 analysts from before the sanctions are still maintaining their buy recommendation, 3 state that they are currently reviewing or suspending their assessment. On Monday morning, Deutsche Börse implemented the part of the sanctions that affects trading in securities of Russian financial service providers. Securities of the 2 largest banks in the country, VTB and Sberbank, can no longer be traded. The positions remain in the depots. The courses have been temporarily set to 0. Current courses are not determined. The financial subsidiaries of the commodity groups Gazprom and Rosneft can no longer be traded there either. When trading resumes, there are established procedures such as the volatility pause to ensure that interim information is not priced in too quickly. But as far as financial stocks are concerned, there is currently no development to be observed at all, because as part of the British and EU sanctions, they can no longer be traded on Western European stock exchanges, as I said, such as London or Frankfurt. And it is a difficult thing, I know, but I don't understand. I'm not a financial guy, I'm not a legal guy, so I don't understand why Gazprom can be. Yeah, okay. But many Russian joint stock companies have been traded on the London Stock Exchange since the 1990s. Around 30 have raised money there with IPOs, for example, the mostly state oil company Rosneft, Gazprom, the steel companies Severstal and Sberbank. At the beginning of the week, Foreign Minister Liz Truss announced that Sberbank would be banned from clearing in pounds. In mid-February, their shares were still trading at just under $15. Since then, they have plummeted to $1, meaning they have lost over 90%. Trading volumes were unusually high as panicked investors tried to sell their shares. Nobody expected that on Sunday. Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a surprise appearance at a Ukrainian Catholic church in central London during services. Many believers pulled out their smartphones to document the unexpected visit. What the Prime Minister said standing behind the altar made many hopeful. If innocent people are the victims of an attack, he said, we in Great Britain cannot turn a blind eye to it, because Ukraine is a neighbor. That's why you want to be as generous as possible. Johnson promised that people who have relatives in Ukraine should be able to join them as soon as possible. Well, in the UK, not in the Ukraine. It was a very spiritual moment and he gave a great speech, Churchbishop Kenneth Nowakovsky said a day later at a press conference in an adjoining room of the small cathedral. The Prime Minister explained what he was planning and encouraged people to keep in touch. We'll have to see how far this goes, Johnson said. That the whole thing would not be so easy, however, became clear on the same day in Parliament. In a very brief speech to MPs on Monday, Home Secretary Priti Patel confirmed that family members can come, but only under very specific conditions. Ukrainians who have obtained British citizenship or permanent residency rights can have their spouses and children under the age of 18 join their parents. At that time, this did not yet apply to siblings, adult children, or grandparents. In addition, Ukrainians must pass a number of security checks before they are allowed to enter the country. War refugees without an asylum procedure are guaranteed protection, as the European Union has announced, but the UK does not want to do it as the EU does. Patel justifying this by saying that she was following the strictest safety instructions. Indeed, during his visit to Poland on Tuesday, Boris Johnson announced that people who have to flee the war zone should now have it made easier to come to their family members in Great Britain. A spokesman for the Prime Minister said that in addition to immediate family members, Ukrainians living in the UK will now be able to bring grandparents, children over 18 and siblings to join them. Well, here in Germany, a Ukrainian passport is enough to come and stay here. The entire London Underground network was hit by a strike on Tuesday morning. No train ran until noon, the stations were not accessible. Around 10,000 employees of the Rail, Maritime and Transport Union had already stopped work at midnight in a dispute over job losses and pensions. Only TfL Rail, Docklands Light Railway and trams operated normally, with London Underground offering a reduced service. Operations resumed on some subway lines around noon. The background to the strikes is plans that the London Underground Transport Company will first cut 600 public sector jobs and abolish the terminal fee pension system in order to cut costs. LU and its parent company TfL have suffered significant financial losses since the pandemic and can only continue to operate thanks to emergency government measures. The RMT union has urged London Mayor Sadiq Khan to keep his promises to LU workers. But last week, the government announced that the mayor had pledged to submit proposals to the government by March 31st to cut subway workers' pensions in order to achieve significant cost savings. RMT Secretary General Mick Lynch said, Sadiq Khan should stand up to Tory ministers who want to unnecessarily attack the jobs, pensions and working conditions of key transport workers. If this policy failure that is driving underground workers left no choice but to strike this week. Our members are paying the price of a fight between City Hall and the government, and they are not taking it, as can be seen across London today. The mayor must make a choice whether he is with the workers who have kept London running during the pandemic or with Tory ministers who want to punish tube workers. If there is no short-term agreement between the union and the transport company, RMT wants to call for further strikes from today. The invasion of Ukraine leads to a mass exodus of Western companies from Russia. This will erase 3 decades of investment by Western and other foreign companies in Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. The list of companies cutting ties or let's call it scrutinizing their operations is growing by the hour as foreign governments tighten sanctions against Russia, close airspace to Russian planes and ban some banks from the SWIFT remittance system. Some companies have concluded that the risks to their reputation and finances are too great to continue. Doing business in Russia has become extremely problematic. The ruble fell as much as 30% on Monday after the US banned transactions with Russia's central bank, cutting its ability to use its $630 billion in foreign exchange reserves to defend the currency. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.